Hi everyone. This video is just going to focus on programming, specifically the use of arrays, or in Python we call them lists. Okay, we're just going to focus on one-dimensional arrays. Two-dimensional arrays are a lot more difficult, so I just thought I'd do that in a separate video. Okay. So the idea, hopefully, this is what OCI say you need to be able to do, is to use one-dimensional arrays in the design of solutions to simple problems. They're relatively straightforward to get your head around. Okay, so grading-wise, if you can use one-dimensional lists and correctly use the indices, grade 3, grade 4, by using iteration and using arrays properly in pseudocodes, grades 4 to 6, and you can see there for your higher grades is the use of two-dimensional arrays. Right. So with a recap, what is an array? These are called lists in Python. You'll see you won't see I doubt you'll see the word list in the exam paper. Okay, it will always refer to it as an array. So an array is basically, it is a data structure. It is a method of storing data. A simple way of storing data in algorithms is using variables, and variables can hold one piece of data, okay, which is fine. An array can hold several bits of data or several variables. Now, the key thing about arrays is they can store just one type of data, okay? So we can have strings or integers or boolean, or or floats, and they can be stored under one what's called identifier or one name. So, well, first of all, why do we do it? So let's say you wanted to store people's names. Okay, I'll do this very quick. Let's get on to Python. Okay, and let's say if we just wanted somebody's name, so let's say name. The program had to store a number of different names. We could have name is Bob. Okay, nice and simple. We have one variable and it stores that. We want to store multiple names. Normally, if we didn't have arrays, we'd have a number of different variables. So Wendy, name 2, okay, Nita, and so on and so on. So you can see with this is, okay, logically it makes sense, but it can get a bit messy. Okay, for a reason is if you wanted to, you couldn't remember, it'd be difficult to keep track of who name 4 was, and you can see each variable, it takes up more space in memory. It gets a bit tricky. So the key thing there is we've got the same types of data there. We're just storing the same thing, just a number of different names. So it makes sense to store them under one identifier, which will be a list or an array. Okay, so the way we could do it separately is we could have an array. So here we've got our pseudocode. If you would see it in an exam in the pseudocode, you'd see array names. And what that does is it declares an array. We're going to call it names, and there's going to be space for 5 names in there. Okay. It says that arrays need to be declared and their size or length specified at the start. Yes, in pseudocode it does. In Python, it doesn't. Okay, so in Python, we still have to declare the actual array or list, but it's just like a blank list. Good thing about Python is it's what's called dynamic. You can increase the length of it. Now, normally with arrays in other programming languages, you have to declare and say how big they're going to be. Okay, so we can also declare an array with the data already. So in pseudocode, it's an array called names, and in there we've got Bob, Nora, and John. Okay, notice how the name, the identifier for this array, is names. It's plural, because if you had an array called name, you'd expect to hold just one value. Okay, arrays are meant to have multiple different values, so it's always a good practice to name or call your list or array as a plural. So let's go back to this. So an alternative to this would be, let's go back. So this would be better if we had it like this. So names, okay, and what we do is the way to identify an array, it uses square brackets. So now we got Bob, and we use a comma to separate our different values. Wendy, who got Nita, and Harry. Oops. There we go. So that is a lot neater than having multiple different variables. Okay, so I've declared a list called names. Okay, so an array, and it has 4 elements. In other words, 4 bits of data in there. Okay, let's go back to our PowerPoint. All right. Now, in order to use the data from there, you need to be able to find them. Okay, and each item or each what's called element, each piece of data in an array has an index or a location, and most of the time they start from 0. So there's an example. So it's like a 1-story hotel with each person has a room. So Bob's in room 0, Bill's in 1, Amy's in 2, and Jill is in room 3. Okay, and they're normally referenced by using those square brackets. All right, so if I do print names 1, okay, what do you think would be output? Okay, let's see if that works. So 1D array. Okay, Wendy. Okay, the reason being is Bob is index 0, Wendy is index 1, Nita is index 2, and Harry is index 3. Okay, right. What do you think we'll see if we did this? Print. Okay. Have a go. What do you think what's going to come out if we do that? 4. Now, recap. What the len function does, the length, what it will do, it would look at this either variable, or in this case, this is a list or an array. It's going to count how many items are in the array and return it. So in this case, it looks okay, how many different elements or names are in names? There's 4. Okay, so it prints out there's 4 in there. All right. What do you think will come out if I change a bit more? Print. Okay. What do we think is going to happen then? Okay, we get an error message. I've done that on purpose, by the way. I haven't just made a mistake. So what's happening there? Why do you think there's an error? Let's see. It says list index out of range. Okay, let's explain what's going on. So before we did print len. Oh, something len. Names. So what that does, we find out, we can see that 4. The length of names is 4. So what that's doing essentially is print names, and that's the same as putting 4. But the problem with that is because our list starts counting from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 isn't there. Let's look at our error message. The error message, oops, didn't want to do that. Our error message is list index out of range. In other words, that index 4 is outside of the range of our list. It doesn't exist. Okay, so what can we do? Let's say we wanted to print out the last item on our list. Okay, what could we do? Let's get rid of that. Well, it's relatively straightforward. Print names, the length of names minus 1. Okay, so what that would do, okay, is going to print out. Okay, we're going to look at this list, names. Okay, which index? Okay, inside the brackets. Well, we want the length of the list, but take away 1 because it's always going to be 1 too many of what's in the list. So hopefully now, what do we think is going to appear when we run that? Harry, the last person in the list. Okay, let's add somebody else. Let's put Jazz. Okay, let's put another one there. Let's put Neil. Okay, So what do you reckon is going to come out now? Nil. So that's a really good thing to show you, because you'll see it quite a lot. What this will do is going to find the length of the array, okay, then print out the last one. It takes one away because length names count how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, but index 6 wouldn't exist. It goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have to take one away if we want to print out the last thing in our list. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. So you can see there, n being the length, -1 is the last index. We just talked through that. Okay, you can identify arrays by the index, as we've just done. Okay, we can search through an array as well. All right, we can actually search through a list or an array. Tell you what, let's do this in Python. Okay, let's do a new one. So let's have resort. Oh, now here we've got Margate. So I'm only going to do a few, so if it's, I'll do 3. Margate, St Ives, and we'll put Bude as well, so it fits in. There we go. So there's our list. Okay, sorry, our array, and we've got 3 elements in there. All right. So what we want to do is basically we want to see if maybe, let's get the user, so put town equals inputs, enter town. So the idea is we're going to type in a town and see if it's in our list. So what we could do then is for I in range, okay, and we're going to start from 0, 2. I want to go to the last one in our list. So what we'll do then is len bracket resort -1. Okay, so we're going to go from 0 to len -1. So we're going to loop through. I'm going to say if town is equal to resort bracket, sorry, I. Because if you think about it, on a for loop, okay, on a for loop, I starts from 0. So in the first time round, if town is equal to resort 0, so I'm pointing using my finger trying to see that. So if the town we type in matches resort 0, so we're going to check to see if it matches Margate. Okay, then what do we want to do? We want found equals true, and that's all we want to do. Okay, and what we can do then is we can say if found equals true, we can say print town is in the array. We could do an else. Is not in the array. Let's check that. So we have our resorts. We have 3 resorts: Margate, St Ives, Bude. We ask us if we want to type in the town. Then what this does, it loops. It does a loop of how many times. So it starts from 0, goes up to length, and then what it does, if town resort 0, okay, all right. Let's see if it works. So let's do a town which isn't there. So I'm going to do a town array. Invalid syntax, right? This one wasn't on purpose. Let's see what have I done there. Go away. One again. Can you spot the mistake? It's the most common mistake we always make. We need 2 equals, because on its own it equals that's an assignment statement, so it's trying to assign. It's trying to assign that to there. It doesn't like it. We need 2 equals in there. Okay. Oops. Run it again. Right. Let's do Sedgley. Okay. So what's wrong here? I had a feeling this would happen. It's saying name found is not defined. So what's happening here is trying to change the variable found to true, but that variable doesn't exist. So what I have to do, I need to declare it at the start. Okay, let's see if it works now. Sedgley. Sedgley is not in the array. Okay, let's try one which is there. Let's try Bude. Oh, why isn't that in the array? Bude is not in the array. If found is equal to true. If town is equal to resort I. Let's try a different one. Let's try Margate. Can't see. Oh, Margate is in the array, but it didn't like Bude. Why didn't it like Bude? Let's have a look at that again. Go away. So, run it again. Doesn't like that. Bude is not in the array. Okay. So, 0, Lena resort minus 1. Let's try St. Ives. St. Ives is in the array, so it doesn't like this last one. Oh, I know why. I know why, oh why. It is because in Python, if you are doing, because what's happening is, when you're using the range function, the start is inclusive, this one is exclusive. It doesn't include that last one. So let's try and do it without that, see if that works. Yeah, that does work. Okay. Yeah, because in Python, it's exclusive. When you're using the range function and you've got a beginning and an end, it doesn't include. It's exclusive. That's a bit something about Python, which is a bit different to the pseudocode. Okay. Interestingly, let's see what happened. Actually, let's add one more on. Let's do new key. That works. So if I type in new key, yeah, that does work. Brilliant. Interestingly, let's just see what would happen if we just changed that to that. So that's just going to take the length of the resort, see if that works. And let's try Margate. Margate is in the array. Let's try something that doesn't work. Dudley is not in the array. And now let's try Newquay, see if that works. Newquay's in the array. Okay, just a little bit of a tweaking there. Okay, but you can see what we can do is we can loop through and search our list to see if something is there or not. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. So this one, so in the pseudocode, it goes from 0 to 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It was just when I did this in Python, if you're using a start and an end index in a for loop, the last one is exclusive. It doesn't include that for some reason. Okay, so let's have a go at a question. So a memory game is played where 3 players, A, B, and C, have to choose a number between 0 and 100. If the number has already been chosen, the message is displayed that says taken. So let's say I'm player A and I choose number 27, which is my birthday. And if say player B's already got it, it says taken. Okay, if the number has not been chosen, the player's letter is placed next to it. So under 27, you'd see A or whatever. The quantity of numbers has not yet been chosen. The quantity of numbers that have not yet been chosen is displayed. So what it has to do then is display how many blanks there are. The winner is the player who has chosen the most unique numbers at the end of the game. The numbers are stored in an array numbers. Okay, a number that has not yet been chosen is stored as an empty string. The players are represented by A, B, and C. Okay, so this is a little bit confusing. Okay, so it says there's an extract from the array, and that's a bit confusing. What the array would look like is this, essentially. Numbers. So it would look like this. A, C, B. Let's go blank string. A. Okay, and so on and so on and so on, up to the last one, which is a blank string. Okay, that's why it's a little bit confusing, because it looks like there's two lists, one for number, one for player. No, so that is index 0, that's index 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 100. So that's where it gets a little bit confusing. Okay, so the first question is, you've been asked to program part of the game. Write an algorithm for player A's turn. So it doesn't matter about player B or player C, nothing like that. Okay, so what it has to do is take as an input the number that player A chooses. Let's do that first of all. Okay, nice and easy. So what we'll do is we'll have to say, what should we call it? Let's call it num is input. Okay, then choose a number. Okay, so that's the first bit. Okay, if it has not already been chosen, stores an A in that array element. Okay, so what essentially you're doing is you need to check to see that num is becoming the index. So we need to see if, so for example, let's say I chose number 4. Okay, what I need to do then is find if numbers 4 is blank. Okay, so it's saying if the number has not already been chosen, stores an A in that array element. So what I can do now is say if numbers num is equal to a blank string. So let's say I chose number 3. Okay, I type in num becomes 3. If numbers 3 is blank, so let's go back. Numbers 0, 1, 2, 3 is blank. What do you want to happen? Stores an array in that element. So what happens then is numbers num then becomes an A. So what that's doing in then is that's putting an A back in that array in that position. Okay, done that. If it has already been chosen, it outputs taken. Well, that's just quite simply else print taken. Okay, that's the relatively straightforward bit. Okay, let's end that if as well. Right then. So this is difficult. Counts and outputs the quantity of numbers left that have not been chosen. So this is where what we have to do is we have to look through this array and count the number of indices which have got a blank string in, haven't got A or B or C. Okay, there's a couple of ways of doing this. Okay, so what we can do now is we can loop through. So we do for we'll just call it x. X equals 0 to 100. Because we're going to start from element 0, go all the way up to 100. Okay. Actually, I'm going to need a variable. Call it free equals 0. In other words, how many blanks are there? Okay. So all we do then is we say, so we're looping through. If numbers x is equal to a blank string, then free equals free plus 1. Okay. End if. Okay. Next x. Okay, and at the end we can just do print free. Oh, no, it's going to be a normal bracket. So let's have a look what's going on here. So this section here, okay, let's choose a different color. Where's it gone? There it is. So this section here is going to be this bit. So what does it do? It starts off, are there any free? In other words, are there any free gaps in the array? Okay, it starts from 0. Then we're going to loop through. We're going to start with 0, go all the way to 100. If, let's imagine it's 0. If number 0 is blank, let's go back. Number 0 isn't blank, it's got an A in. So in other words, it doesn't do anything. Okay, we do our next loop. X becomes 1. If numbers 1 is blank, well, numbers 1 isn't blank. Okay, keeps on going. Goes up to if number 3 is blank. Oop, come wrong way. Number 3 is blank. Then 3 is 3 plus 1. It adds 1 to it. So it just goes through all of the positions in the index from 0 up to 100 and it counts how many blank spaces there are, and then it's going to output that. Okay, and there we go. The key thing about this is making sure you understand the different indices and how they're used. As soon as you got that, one-dimensional arrays are relatively straightforward. Okay, so finally, what's the advantage of using arrays? So I've said if you want to store a lot of data, a lot of the same types of data, using multiple different variables isn't very efficient. It would be quite inconvenient. So there's an example. Let's say you wanted to store 100 different names. What you can do, you can use a loop. Okay, and you could have an array called usernames. So what that would do is that would go through and then you just put in 100 different names and you can quite easily sort them just by using your index. So what this would do would just display from 0 all the way up to 99. Okay, you could sort it that way. It is a lot more efficient. You can store it under one identifier. Okay, to summarize. So they're useful for holding a number of items of the same type, so names or ages or scores or something like that. There are up to what's called three-dimensional arrays. You're going to need to know no more than 2. We just focus on one-dimensional arrays. And as I said, in Python, there's no arrays, just lists, and lists are dynamic. They can increase. And plus, in lists, you can use multiple different data types. In arrays, it's just to be one type of data type. Okay, I'll do a separate video based on two-dimensional arrays. Okay, hopefully this video has been useful. Any questions, just please let me know. All right, thanks for listening. If you have been, take care. Bye-bye.